So it's Halloween today, and just like every other Halloween, once again, the whole world is outside having a good time, or they're getting ready to go out and have a good time, while I'm here alone in my room with the lights off. My mom did invite me to go trick or treating with her and my baby cousin, but I declined. So I know I'm not as bad off as some of you are. I recognize that. I did technically have the option of not being alone tonight. But the topic I want to talk about today is how some people, maybe most people, and this does apply to women heavily, in their day to day lives, they might act like they're good people with strong values and strong moral fiber, and they might even convincingly live that way most of the time. But all it takes is any kind of socially acceptable excuse to just let loose, and you can see in real time just how quickly people forget about all their supposed values. And oh, by the way, I know some of you probably just clicked on this to see if there's any updates on the situation with the Indian girl and the job opportunity. I don't have anything to report at this time on any of that. So if that's all you're here for, you don't need to watch this one. I'll update y'all in a day or two. She hasn't even texted me today at all, by the way. She's supposed to be my girlfriend, but I guess she didn't think it's worth texting me on a holiday. So, yeah, that's how that's going. Not that I even care at this point. But back to the topic at hand, in the case of women and Halloween, you know, some women will all year in their day to day lives, they'll put on this image like they're all about family values and like they're all chaste and modest and all that. Then all of a sudden, Halloween rolls around, and these same women see they have an excuse to dress and act like a total floozy, and so that's what they do. You know, 364 days out of the year, she might be Miss Goody Two Shoes, or that's what she allows you and me to see. But on Halloween, all bets are off on Halloween because I guess for some reason Halloween is just a get out of jail free card. So on Halloween, we all get to see her real values. We all get to see what Chad already knows. Because don't think that just because a girl dresses modestly most of the year, or not even necessarily modestly, but just because a girl dresses normal most of the year, even if that means yoga pants or whatever. I know yoga pants obviously are not very modest, but that's where we're at as a society, I guess. But just because a girl usually dresses normal most of the year, if she dresses like a street walker on Halloween, you know, if her costume could be described as a sexy anything, then that's her true self. She's showing you who she really is. You don't get to be Miss Goody Two Shoes church girl 364 days of the year. Then on this one day, you go out into public wearing something that would probably get you arrested any other day of the year, and you just get to keep your good girl reputation. That's not how it works. The flooziest outfit a woman ever wears into public, that's what determines her overall flues rating. That is her true self. Because just it being Halloween, that's not really much of an excuse. Just because it's considered socially acceptable by some people, that doesn't change the fact that you're letting probably hundreds of people or even thousands of people see you in a way that only your actual husband or boyfriend should see you. I've even seen lots of women's Halloween costumes where they're literally just walking around in thongs. That's not an exaggeration. That's basically what the outfit is. That's not something you should be wearing in public. Even if most people think it's socially acceptable for this one special day, because also the only reason it's kinda sorta socially acceptable for girls to dress that way on Halloween, that's because guys like that, because it makes it easy for us to see which of you would be down to have a one-night stand. I say us, but obviously that doesn't really apply to me. That's for attractive guys only. I've never even been to a Halloween party, but the point I'm making is, yeah, guys act like it's acceptable for you to dress like a sexy nurse or whatever for Halloween. But literally, not a single one of those same guys, if they had a girlfriend or a wife, or if they have a girl or a wife, none of those guys would be okay with their woman dressing like that. Because the status of the particular day being Halloween, that doesn't actually make any difference. The only difference is that men will act like it's okay for you to dress like that because they want to do you one time. Once, just once. If you're dressed like that, they just want it once, just one time. One time. They don't want to see you again. Why would they? No man that has options, so in other words, no man that women actually want to be with, would actually be willing to date a girl that he picked up on Halloween when she was essentially wearing lingerie, although ostensibly she was actually dressed like an angel or whatever. And I know some of you are probably thinking, but loser maxing, most Halloween costumes are still more than what a woman would wear to the beach. And to that I say, okay, so what? I don't think any self-respecting woman should be wearing a bikini in public either. I don't care what the context is. That is F-loosey behavior. Again, I repeat, the most provocatively a woman has ever dressed, that is how big of a loosey-goosey she is. I don't care if she wears a burqa every other day of her life. If she goes out in public one time dressed like a sexy policewoman or whatever, then she might as well get a job in Amsterdam, specifically in the region of the city where there's a lot of windows with red lights in them. Because that's where she belongs if she thinks it's cool to dress like that. Now, I will say, I am being a little bit, just a tiny bit, hyperbolic here. Like, I understand that bikinis are almost ubiquitous these days, so I wouldn't necessarily say that a woman is an absolute lost cause just because she wore a bikini to the pool one time 7 years ago. The vast majority of people, men and women, are usually just gonna try to fit in whatever they're doing. So right now in our society, for a woman to fit in, especially younger women, I can understand why if they're going to the beach or they're going to the pool, they might feel like they should be wearing a bikini. Because look, I'm a progressive guy. I know my regular viewers already know that. But for those of you that are new here, there is nothing in this world I agree with more than YouTube's community guidelines on hateful and derogatory content. So, believe it or not, I can almost kinda understand why a woman would wear a bikini in public in certain contexts, such as if she's at the beach. It's still very misguided, and I would certainly never want to make a wife out of a woman that would do something like that. But I do understand it, kinda. But going out to the bars around hundreds or even thousands of people wearing little more than just lingerie in late October when it's probably at best like 50 something degrees, probably colder than that. I don't care if you refer to your lingerie as a sexy professor costume or whatever you try to pass it off as. That's something that that's something I don't understand. It's just streetwalker behavior. And I mean that very literally. That is what you are behaving like if you dress that way in public. I'm not the type of guy to tell other people what to do, but in my humble opinion, no woman should ever leave the house dressed like that. And if they do, even if it's just for one night, for Halloween, if she goes out in public wearing basically nothing, then I and a lot of other men are going to think the same about that woman as we think about professional women of the night. And also, I don't think it's just a way of dressing. When you see a woman dressed like that, it's not just about that physically that's what she's wearing. And I don't think there's really too many chicks that are just getting caught up in the festivities, so they're just trying to fit in or whatever. Like, it takes significant fortitude, actually, to walk around in the cold night wearing nothing but a tiny, thin material, sexy kitten costume or whatever. These girls out here are fighting against the elements, putting themselves through adversity to wear these costumes. So just think about that. What is it about wearing a sexy Halloween costume that is so important that so many women are willing to put themselves through all the pain and discomfort of the cold, cold, late October night just so they can wear these costumes? Maybe it could be that for some of these gals, Halloween is the only night that they feel comfortable, socially speaking, to dress publicly in a way that matches their true self. It's the only night of the year outside of going to the beach or the pool where they feel like they can actually dress like who they really are on the inside. So I don't think it's just a costume. I think that for a woman to wear that kind of Halloween costume, that is her for one night finally dressing in a way that matches who she is on the inside. That's what I think. And I don't think that's unreasonable to assess the situation in that way. I think it's actually pretty clear. When a woman dresses like that, there is a reason. And the reason is not just, I'm celebrating the holiday! Yay, Halloween! I love Halloween so much! Because there are plenty of costumes available that don't look like something that a stripper would wear. And lots of women do wear reasonable costumes that aren't just designed to show off their body. So there's a reason that some women choose to walk around in public wearing basically nothing. I'm not going to act like I have all the answers, but I do have a theory, or a hypothesis, I guess I should call it. My hypothesis is that some women dress extra floozily on Halloween because they actually do want to have a stripper experience. Basically, I think they want to have everybody staring at them, and they want to have everybody staring at their body parts, and they want to be the center of attention. And some of them, maybe, I know this is kind of out there, but I think maybe some of them are hoping to get picked up and ran through by Chad and his friends. But that's just a hypothesis. We would have to run experiments, the scientific method. This is just a hypothesis. It is not yet a scientific law, but I think it could be proven to be as such. And whether or not that's true, I am pretty sure it's not just some innocent thing. Like, you don't just dress like that for no reason. At best, a woman would have to be extremely egotistical to assume that it's okay in the first place to just force everyone else in the public square to have to look at her bare behind. Because, okay, so I don't know, I might catch some flack for this. This might be an unpopular opinion, but even if a woman is very attractive and she has a very attractive rear end, there are certain instances where I don't really want to look at that and I don't want to be around that. For example, if I was eating a plate of chicken tenders or something like that, maybe I'm at a bar on Halloween and, obviously I'm not going to be in that situation due to my crippling social anxiety, but a guy theoretically could find himself in that situation, and I don't think I'm the only man in the world that feels this way. So imagine you're sitting at a table in a bar on Halloween. Maybe it's a little bit crowded, so everybody's kind of bumping shoulders, and you're sitting there, you're enjoying some bar food, maybe some chicken tenders, maybe some onion rings, something like that. Well, look, I am a heterosexual man. I very much enjoy gazing upon an aesthetically pleasing backside on a beautiful woman, and I enjoy a variety of shapes and sizes. Honestly, I can find beauty in places that a lot of other men can't. Okay, so I'm not super picky on what type of woman I find attractive, but if I'm enjoying a plate of chicken fingers, I really don't want any woman's bare bottom anywhere near my chicken fingers. Okay? That's gross. There's supposed to be at least 2 layers of material between a person's porthole and the outside environment. So if some broad is dressed up as a sexy librarian or whatever, and all she's got on is a thong basically, imagine she's pretty much dressed like Britney Spears in the Hit Me Baby One More Time video, except with an even shorter skirt, because that is how a lot of women dress at the bars or just in public on Halloween. Well, if the bar's crowded, people, they can't help but be close to each other, a woman's waist level might be kind of about the same height as the height of the table where my chicken fingers are, and I don't want that anywhere near my chicken fingers. It's gross, okay? In the right context, it might be something I would love to have near me. Probably most of the time, that's something I would like to have near me, even rubbing against me. But if I'm eating, then I do not consent to that. I don't want it near me, and I think it's gross. And it doesn't have to be bar food, even if it was like an apple or like ice cream or something, it's still gross. I do not want any floozied up, sexy anything costumes around me when I'm trying to eat. So when a woman leaves the house and goes out into public with both cheeks just exposed to the environment like that, it's Halloween. People are going to be eating candy at the very least. It's gross. And frankly, it's antisocial. And you would have to be very egotistical, just very narcissistic, to think it's okay to force people to see all your body parts while maybe they're even eating at the time when they see you. It's disgusting. So I think it really says a lot about a person if they're willing to cast aside all their values for one day just because they have a socially acceptable excuse. And obviously, I do know that a lot of the women that flues it up for Halloween, it's not like they're all super modest in their day-to-day lives, but I do think most women that dress that way on Halloween, they're not dressing that outlandishly on a day-to-day basis. So they are dropping their standards at least a little bit for what they think is and is not okay for them to dress like just because they have an excuse. It's Halloween, everybody's doing it, it's just a costume. That really tells you a lot about a person. I mean, if you're willing to sacrifice your values for one day just because you have an excuse, then I would say I don't think that you really hold those particular values at all. So if a woman thinks it's okay to just let loose and dress like a stripper and act like one too, just because it's Halloween, make no mistake about it, she wants to act like that every day. And she probably does act like that when she's with Chad. Around you or me, she'll try to act a certain way. She'll portray a certain image. But Halloween is the test. If she's a flooze on Halloween, then deep down, that's just her true nature. If she dresses like that and acts like that, like a stripper on Halloween, then, if that's all it took for her to justify in her mind that it's okay to act that way in public, then make no mistake about it, that's how she wants to act every day. It's just society that's holding her back. And Halloween isn't the only example of a situation where certain women will expose themselves like this. And I mean expose themselves like expose their true self, but also literally exposing themselves physically. Halloween's not the only example. You could also say basically any time a woman goes on vacation, especially beach vacations, especially if it's a real special beach vacation, like going to Panama City or something, that's one thing. But when they're going to like Cancun, they're going to on the Cozumel cruise, whatever. They're going to Europe. They're going to a beach in southern Spain, in Italia. I don't really know what goes on. I'm not part of the top 5% of men in this world that is actually privy to that information on a carnal level. But I think I have some idea. And I think it's basically like Halloween, but on steroids. I'm honestly not even jealous that I'm not one of the men that gets to have carnal knowledge of that. I don't know if I'm using that phrase correctly, carnal knowledge, whatever. I'm not even jealous that I'm not one of the men that gets to, boink a flues here and there when she's on vacation. Because you can say it's coping, and I don't even care. Yeah, I'm coping. I don't care. I'm okay. The cope is, at this point in my life, it's like the chicken or the egg. Is this what I actually believe? Are these my actual values? Or have I just coped myself into this? Well, it doesn't really matter because that's who I am. Okay? And I actually don't want to have a part in all that debauchery. Not even just for one night, because you know what? I keep my values 366 days of the year, on a leap year, 365 on most years. So that's it. That's what I wanted to talk about. Halloween is really a litmus test. If you have a girlfriend, if you're one of the top 10% of men that actually had managed to get a girlfriend, pay attention to what she wants to dress like on Halloween. Now, most likely, even if she would usually, even if she would dress like a sexy owl on Halloween if she was single, when she's actually in a relationship, I think most of those same women, because they know deep down, like, okay, this isn't actually acceptable. They know that deep down. They're just doing it because it's a somewhat socially acceptable excuse for them to see what it's like to be basically to live their life like a street walking night woman. And for some reason, there's a whole lot of women in this world that really want to experience that lifestyle. But it's only for one night. It's Halloween. It's for the festivity. Whatever. Whatever. If you're really just into Halloween, go get a white bed sheet and cut 2 holes in it and throw it over your head and be a ghost. Be a ghost. Walk around with your burqa ghost outfit and be modest. And that is festive. That is appropriate for Halloween. If you insist on being a sexy, I don't even know, you insist on dressing like a sexy whatever, then you're just exposing yourself. You're showing us who you really are. Feel free to do that if you want. It's a free country. You're free to do that. It's disgusting. There are going to be people eating candy, maybe eating chicken fingers. And if someone's eating chicken fingers, I'm here to tell you, honey, he isn't going to want your bare bottom anywhere near his plate of tendies, okay? Because that's disgusting. So do what you want. And any of you fellas listening to this, you can believe what you want. You think I'm acting crazy. You think everything I'm saying is nonsense. Believe whatever you want. But this is some real shite I'm kicking right here, okay? So if you like what I had to say or you find it entertaining one way or another, please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel and check back soon. I try to make a lot of videos because I got a lot to say. So thank you for watching.